"Get on the ground," Ray Tanner shouted, his voice hissing through the cheap knockoff protective vest, his handgun pointed at my grandfather, Harold Carter, 78 years old. He stood still in the yard of our house in Willow Creek, Oregon, holding only a watering hose, nothing but a few drops trickling onto the grass. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone must have called the cops. My mom Laura burst out the front door screaming hysterically, "Stop it, stop it." Ray, the self-appointed fake cop, paled as he realized he'd just made a huge mistake. But before he could back off, two sleek black SUVs screeched to a halt in front of the house. The doors flew open, and my Uncle Jack Ramsey's FBI team stepped out, guns cocked, eyes cold as steel. Ray thought he could play fake HOA around here. I, Ethan Carter, said straight into the camera, my hands still shaking after hitting record. But no, this isn't a movie, this is real, and he picked the wrong neighborhood to mess with. Harold just stood there, hose dangling in his hand, not even blinking at the barrel. Laura sobbed, her screams drowning out the distant sirens. Ray took a step back, eyes darting wildly, clearly not expecting things to escalate like this. Then Jack's team rolled in, a full-on armed force, not some half-baked local police. They leapt from the SUVs, guns trained, Jack's voice booming, "Drop the weapon." Ray froze like a statue, hands trembling, sweat streaming down his forehead. I ducked behind the mailbox, heart pounding, filming while texting Jack, "He's got a gun, do something." But to understand why Ray dared pull a gun on my grandfather, why Jack and the FBI swooped in right on time, we've got to rewind. 2 months back, when Diane Voss and this Ray guy started turning Willow Creek into their little dictatorship playground. It all began with our private well, the one Diane secretly used to water her garden, and oh what I did to get back at her. You won't believe it. Rewind 2 months before the day Ray Tanner pulled a gun on my grandfather, Harold Carter, and everything in Willow Creek, Oregon, still seemed peaceful, at least on the surface. I, Ethan Carter, had just moved here after college graduation, struggling to find a job in the chaotic post-pandemic market. My mom Laura's old house sat in the middle of this retirement neighborhood, cute little wooden homes, white picket fences, and old folks who preferred war stories over TV. Harold, my grandfather, was one of them, a quiet Korean war vet, always tinkering in the small garden he and Grandma once tended. I came to help him, but also to escape the aimless feeling after burning out at school. Willow Creek wasn't a place you'd expect drama. Built after World War II for veterans, it was a tranquil community with birds chirping and the smell of fresh-cut grass. But then Diane Voss showed up, and everything changed. I first met her one early morning, while trimming the hedge. Diane with glossy dyed blonde hair, wearing a tight sweater, clutching a clipboard like a weapon, knocked on our door. "Hi there," she said, her voice shrill like a busted smoke alarm. "I'm Diane Voss, chair of the Willow Creek Standards Committee. Your house has an issue." I blinked, looking at the paper she shoved into my hand, a hastily printed note saying our trash can was out of regulated position. "What committee?" I asked, glancing around like I'd spot a council hiding behind the bushes. Diane smiled, the kind of smile that makes you check your wallet. "Oh, it's new, we need standards here, Willow Creek's going downhill." I glanced at Harold, watering his lilies nearby. He shrugged, smirking, "I survived artillery, this won't scare me." But I was different, I found it annoying. Diane didn't stop at notes, she went around the neighborhood, handing out flyers about her so-called new HOA, demanding everything from house paint colors to grass height. I looked it up, Willow Creek had no HOA, no paperwork, no board, no city approval, but Diane didn't need reality. She had a printer, a voice louder than barking dogs, and a fierce belief she was born to rule. I heard neighbors whisper, she'd been a real estate agent in Portland, flopped hard, then moved here to turn the neighborhood into her playground. The first notes were mild, trash cans, fence paint, but Harold told me, people like her don't stop. He was right. A few days later, Diane sent the first violation notice, color-printed ugly font, claiming the little American flag in Harold's garden was too patriotic and could cause international tension. "I'm not kidding," she wrote that. Harold took the paper, read it, laughed hard. international tension, with who the bees, but I couldn't laugh. I saw him hesitate before going to the garden, like he feared more trouble. That garden was everything to him, where he and Grandma planted flowers, where he found peace after the war. Diane was invading it, and I couldn't stand it. I started watching her closer. Diane wasn't alone, she had Ray Tanner, who'd show up later, but I didn't know then. I just saw Diane getting bolder, sticking notes on doors, standing in the street yelling about community standards. Neighbors started buzzing. Margaret Hensley, a retired teacher, said Diane demanded a $100 initiation fee. Sophia Alvarez, a single mom down the street, said she threatened to report her to the authorities for non-compliance. But what pissed me off most was when I caught Diane secretly tapping our private well, dug by Harold decades ago, to water her freaky oasis point. That was the last straw. I decided I wouldn't just sit there, I'd flush her system, literally. And oh, that was just the start of the nightmare Diane and Ray were about to face. Diane Voss had me fed up with her dumb penalty slips and self-appointed HOA, but things really spiraled when Ray Tanner entered the game. Ethan Carter, was trimming the hedge at our Willow Creek house one sweaty afternoon when I first saw him. Ray strolled by, wearing camo shorts, a homemade vest labeled security in crooked capitals, dark aviators hiding half his face. He clutched a cheap walkie-talkie, barking into it, but no one answered, because he was talking to himself. I glanced at my grandfather, Harold Carter, watering lilies nearby. He eyed Ray, shook his head. That guy's not right. Harold was spot on, as usual. Ray wasn't just some weirdo, he was Diane's new boyfriend, clearly recruited as her enforcer for that ridiculous committee. I looked him up later. Ray had been a private security guard in Portland, fired for punching a client in a drunken rage. Now he roamed Willow Creek, thinking he was the sheriff of this retirement neighborhood. The first time he spoke to me was while I held garden shears. He stopped, squinting like I'd burned his flag, and asked, "You got a permit for that tool?" I blinked. "You mean the shears?" He nodded, dead serious. "Handheld cutting devices can be a risk if not properly maintained. HOA regs require annual checks." "What HOA?" I asked, trying not to laugh. Ray leaned in, whispering like it was a state secret. "It's real, just not everyone knows yet." I went inside, nearly choking from laughing, but Harold didn't join in. He looked out the window, said, "Guys like him don't stay funny forever, Ethan." And he was right again. Ray didn't just talk, he acted. A few days later, I saw him outside Margaret Hensley's house, banging on her door, demanding she adjust her trash cans to standards. Margaret, a sweet retired teacher, refused, and Ray raised a fist like he'd smash the door. Sophia Alvarez, the single mom down the street, said he'd stood outside her place, scribbling violations, because she left her son's bike in the yard. But what chilled me was when I noticed Ray carried a gun. Not obvious at first, it bulged under his vest, like a secret he wanted people to ask about. I first saw it when he passed our house, hand resting on his hip, letting the grip peek out. Harold saw too, muttering, "This guy wants to make it a big deal." I started filming Ray every time I saw him, yelling into his walkie, threatening neighbors, strutting like he'd watched too many cheap cop movies. He had no authority, just a self-appointed wet napkin, but with a gun, he was dangerous. Diane and Ray were a nightmare duo. Diane wrote fines, Ray enforced them. One day, I saw him in the street, shouting into his walkie, "Check the East Sector flag approval needed." He meant the little flag in Harold's garden, the one Diane called too patriotic. I asked Sophia later, she said Ray had knocked on her door, demanding to inspect her water infrastructure for suspected leaks. What leaks? Diane was the one siphoning our well to water her damn oasis point. Ray didn't know, or didn't care, but he made everything worse. Harold started worrying. He didn't say it, but I saw. He went to the garden less, holding the hose with eyes darting. That garden was his sanctuary, where he and Grandma once laughed, where he forgot shelling in war. Ray and Diane were wrecking it, day by day. I texted my uncle Jack Ramsey, an FBI agent, about Ray and the gun. Jack was busy, texting back, "Record everything if he acts, call me right away." I made a Willow Hell folder on my phone, saving every video photo note. but I never expected Ray would be dumb enough to pull a gun on Harold. That was his biggest mistake, and Diane was about to pay for it too. I just needed the right moment to flush sewage into her system, and trust me, that was just the beginning. Ray Tanner blew into Willow Creek like a toxic wind, and I, Ethan Carter, knew I couldn't sit by while he and Diane Voss trashed the neighborhood, especially when my grandfather Harold Carter started getting anxious. But not everyone at home agreed with me. One night, after spotting Ray lurking near our house with his stupid walkie-talkie, I sat in the kitchen with my mom, Laura, and tried to talk. "Mom, that guy's got a gun," I said, pointing out the window where Ray had just passed. "He and Diane are harassing everyone, we've got to do something." Laura set her coffee down, face tense. "Ethan, don't get involved. If they're crazy, call the cops. Don't make yourself a target." I got mad. "Cops? You think they'll do anything about this fake HOA? Diane's tapping our well, that's theft, and Ray's threatening Grandpa with his wannabe action movie strut." Laura shook her head, voice shaky. "Don't you see, if you provoke them, they'll retaliate. We've got enough problems, you're jobless, Grandpa's old, I don't want more drama." I stood up fast. "Doing nothing lets them win, Mom. Harold doesn't deserve this." Laura went quiet, but her eyes said it. She was scared, and she wanted me to stop. I didn't listen. I texted Jack Ramsey again. "Urgent. Ray's got a gun, threatening neighbors. Diane's scamming everyone. Need you to look into this." Jack, the busy FBI agent, texted back short, "Recorded all videos, photos, papers. If there's a real gun, call me ASAP. I'm in Seattle, big case." I sighed. Jack was the best hope, but I had to manage until then. Laura saw me messing with my phone, mumbling, "Calling Jack won't help, don't drag us all into danger." The family tension bugged me, but I couldn't ignore Harold. He deserved peace. Beyond family, I turned to neighbors. Margaret Hensley, the retired teacher 2 houses down, was the first I approached. I knocked, asked about Diane. Margaret, silver-haired, invited me in, showed me a fine Diane printed. She demanded $200 maintenance fees, because my trash can isn't up to standard. "I don't have spare cash, Ethan." She said Ray had stood outside her door, raising a fist when she refused. I clenched my jaw. "Keep that paper, I'm documenting everything." Margaret nodded. "I trust you, but watch out for Ray. He's not normal." Then I met Sophia Alvarez, the single mom down the street. Sophia, wiping her son's bike, said, "Diane called my house unsanitaries for leaving the bike out. Ray knocked, demanded to check my water, said suspected leak. I told him to get lost, but he kept hanging around." I asked, "Got proof?" Sophia grabbed her phone, showed me a pic of Ray outside her house, hand on his hip, gun visible. "I didn't call the cops, didn't want trouble for my kid. But I'm with you, Ethan." I invited Margaret and Sophia over that night, a secret meeting. Harold brewed tea, listened, while Laura glared from the corner. I spread out videos, photos, fines on the table. "Here," I pointed at a clip of Ray barking into his walkie, "they've got no authority. Diane's stealing water from our well for her damn garden. I'm flushing sewage into her system." Sophia grinned. "I know some plumbing, I can help." Margaret fretted, "But if they find out?" Harold spoke, voice low, "They picked the wrong guy to bully." "Do it, Ethan." Laura stormed out, "I'm not part of this." I didn't blame Mom. She had a right to be scared, but I saw Harold clench his fists, eyes on the garden through the window. Diane and Ray weren't just threatening him, they were threatening Willow Creek. With Sophia and Margaret, I had allies. With videos, I had proof. With Jack on the other end, I had a backup plan. Ray's gun was real, but I'd make Diane and him regret this before it came to barrels, or so I thought then. After meeting with Margaret Hensley and Sophia Alvarez, I, Ethan Carter, thought I was ready to take on Diane Voss and Ray Tanner. But I hadn't gauged how far they'd push things in Willow Creek. Just days later, Diane held her so-called first HOA meeting in her backyard, amid her ridiculous oasis point, full of wild flowers, grown with our well water. She stood on a wooden crate, clipboard in hand, yelling into a cheap megaphone, "Willow Creek needs order, everyone's gotta pay a $100 initiation fee. Anyone who doesn't is against the community." I stood back, filming from behind the fence, watching neighbors squirm, some muttering, some pulling out wallets. Ray stood by Diane, chest puffed in his homemade security vest, hand hovering over his hip to flash the gun. He didn't say much, just stared like he wanted everyone quiet. Margaret told me later, Ray had banged on her door right before, waving a baseball bat, growling, "Pay up or face consequences." Margaret, a retired teacher on a tight pension, shakily gave $50, half what they demanded, but Ray still put her on Diane's blacklist. Sophia flat out refused, telling me, "He threatened to call the cops over my son's bike." I said go ahead, he shut up. I watched the meeting video, realizing Diane wasn't just winging it, she'd done real estate, knew how to fake documents to look legit. Her flyers had a hand-drawn logo, a fake city approval stamp, and Willow Creek Standards Committee in bold. Harold got a new fine the next day. I found it in the mailbox, color-printed ugly font, saying his little American flag was too patriotic, disrupting community aesthetics. He held the paper, smirked, "Patriotism's a crime now, she should try living through a war." But I saw he didn't go to the garden all day. Diane and Ray were scaring him, even if he wouldn't admit it. They didn't stop. Ray started patrolling, walkie crackling, slapping violation notes on doors. One morning, I saw him outside Sophia's, writing a fine for grass over 2 inches. Sophia rushed out, yelling, "This is my house, not her land." Ray just grinned, hand brushing his gun under the vest. "Comply or leave." I filmed it, added it to Willow Hell. But what enraged me most was when Harold said Ray stood outside our house the night before, shouting into his walkie, "Well, check, suspected sabotage." Sabotage. Diane was the one piping our well to her garden. Diane sent official notices around the neighborhood, cheap paper, demanding water infrastructure inspections for anyone with a well. I checked ours, pressure was down, clearly from Diane siphoning for her damn wildflower maze. Harold saw me measuring, asked, "What are they doing with our water?" I told the truth. Diane was stealing what he dug decades ago. He went quiet, but I saw his hand tighten on the hose, eyes on the garden, where he and Grandma grew lilies, now threatened by these 2 lunatics. I called Sophia and Margaret over. "They're ramping up, we've gotta act," I said, showing them video of Ray threatening Sophia. Sophia nodded. "I checked yesterday, the pipe from your well runs underground through my yard, straight to Diane's garden. Her backflow valve's installed wrong, easy to mess with." Margaret worried, "But Ray's got a gun, what if he finds out?" Harold, listening, spoke, "He's got a gun, but we've got brains. Do it, Ethan." Laura, my mom, stood at the door, shook her head. "You'll put us all at risk." "Stop it." I looked at her. "Don't you see? They're bullying Grandpa. I won't let it slide." Laura walked off, but I knew I was right. Diane and Ray thought they owned Willow Creek. One night, I saw them outside our house, Diane pointing at the well, Ray nodding, hand on his gun. I texted Jack Ramsey, "Direct threats now, Ray's got a gun. Diane's stealing water, need you soon." Jack replied, "Keep evidence, I'll arrange something." I breathed easier, but couldn't wait. With Sophia, I planned it out, flush sewage from our old septic into Diane's system. Margaret asked, "What if they retaliate?" I grinned, "They'll regret messing with Harold." Ray and Diane didn't know I was ready. They pushed their power, but I'd push back harder, and when Ray dared pull a gun on my grandfather, that was the end of their charade. Diane Voss and Ray Tanner had gone too far in Willow Creek, and I, Ethan Carter, knew I couldn't let them keep bullying my grandfather, Harold Carter. But before I flushed sewage into Diane's system, before it all escalated to Ray pulling a gun, I needed to remind myself why I was doing this. Not just for the stolen well, not just for the stupid fines, it was for Harold, the man who'd lived through hell, and made that little garden his heaven. I remember evenings on the porch, Harold telling Korean War stories, his voice low like wind through grass. He didn't brag, he wasn't the type of vet who spun hero tales, but once when I was little, he told me about a freezing night at Chosin, shells bursting around him, buddies falling, and he thought he wouldn't see morning. I promised myself, he said, eyes distant, if I survived I'd find a peaceful place, no one could take from me. He found Willow Creek, and with Grandma, they built that garden, every lily, every patch of soil, a reminder peace isn't free. Harold didn't talk much about Grandma, after she passed. The pain was too big, but I'd see him in the garden daily, hose in hand, whispering to the flowers like he was talking to her. That garden was his sanctuary, where he forgot shelling, forgot sleepless nights. When I moved here after college, I saw him smile most there, telling me how local bees thanked him for blooming flowers. They're smarter than people, he'd laugh. No HOA fees. That was Harold, quiet humor, tough inside. But then Diane and Ray came. I saw him change, not fear, but sadness. One morning, after Ray yelled outside about well checks, I found Harold in the kitchen, holding Diane's fine, staring at the garden through the window. He didn't water that day, first time I'd seen him skip it. "What do they want with this garden?" he asked, voice small but heavy. I told him about Diane's pipe from our well, and he clenched his fist. "That water's ours, hers too." That's when I got it. Diane and Ray weren't just stealing water, they were invading his memories. The last thing he held from Grandma. I recall him showing me the well years back. He said he dug it by hand, bucket by bucket, for clean water for the family. "It's not just water, Ethan," he said, "it's freedom, no one controls you." Now Diane used it for her freaky oasis point, and Ray dared threaten him outside. That guy didn't know Harold had faced worse than guns. But I knew, and I couldn't let him lose again. Harold didn't ask me to act, he wasn't that kind, but when I told him my plan to flush sewage into Diane's system, he nodded. "Do it. They don't get what they're breaking." Laura, my mom, fought it, but Harold looked at me, a spark in his eyes from war days. "Don't let them win, Ethan." That was all I needed. His okay, not for revenge, but protection. Looking back, I see Harold's why I'm here. Not just for a job or to dodge pressure, I'm here for him, the garden, the freedom he fought for. Diane and Ray weren't just bullying an old man, they were messing with a survivor, worth more than their fake HOA combined. I grabbed my phone, checked the video of Ray threatening, and told myself, they'll pay for Harold. After seeing Harold Carter, my grandfather, Korean War survivor, hesitate over his garden, because of Diane Voss and Ray Tanner, Ethan Carter, knew I had to act. Not just for the well they stole from, not just for the dumb fines, but for him, the man who deserved peace after everything. Diane thought she could turn Willow Creek into her kingdom, and Ray figured his gun under the vest made him untouchable. They were wrong. I'd give them a taste, literally, and I wouldn't do it alone. I called Sophia Alvarez and Margaret Hensley to the house that night. Harold brewed tea, listened, while my mom Laura glared from the corner, clearly against it. I laid out the evidence on the table, video of Ray threatening Sophia, fines Diane sent Margaret, photos of the pipe from our well to Diane's oasis point. "They're stealing water from the well, Harold dug," I said, pointing at a clip of Ray outside yelling about well checks. "I'm flushing sewage from our old septic into her system, turn that garden into a swamp." Sophia grinned. "I know some plumbing, I can help." Margaret worried, "But if they find out, Ray's got a gun." Harold spoke, voice low, "He's got a gun, but we've got brains. Do it, Ethan." Laura stood. "You're crazy, they'll retaliate against us all." I looked at her. "Don't you see? They're bullying Grandpa, I won't let it go." Laura stormed out, but I didn't stop. Sophia pulled her chair closer. "I checked yesterday, the pipe from your well runs underground through my yard, straight to Diane's garden. Her backflow valve's installed wrong, easy to sabotage." I nodded. "Good. We'll use her own mistake against her." The plan started taking shape. Our house had an old septic tank in the backyard, unused, but still full of gray water from the washer and sink. I called it community manure tea, stinky enough to freak Diane out. Sophia suggested, "We need a small pump to push the wastewater into her pipe." "I've got one at home, used it for car repairs." Margaret asked, "But how do we hide it from Harold? He doesn't like trouble." I glanced at Harold. He sipped his tea, chuckled softly. "Go ahead. I'll pretend I don't know." This old man always finding ways to surprise me. The next day, Sophia and I went shopping for supplies. We drove to a hardware store in Silverton, the next town over, to avoid prying eyes in Willow Creek. I bought a roll of plastic tubing, a one-way valve, and waterproof tape, all with the meager savings from my college stipend. Sophia picked out a small hand pump, whispering, "This'll push the wastewater through quietly." On the way back, I asked, "You sure about this? If Ray catches us, he'll flip." Sophia shrugged. He's threatened me plenty, now it's payback. That night, I checked our system. The well Harold dug was out back, deep and solid, clean water he'd been proud of for years. Diane's pipe tapped into it underground, surfacing at the edge of Sophia's yard. I dug lightly, found Diane's backflow valve, misaligned, flimsy, just like Sophia said. I texted Jack Ramsey, "They're stealing water, I've got proof." "Ray's carrying a gun, direct threats. What's your move?" Jack replied, "Record everything, I can arrange something, but it'll take time. Don't do anything stupid." Too late, the plan was set, and I wasn't waiting for a rescue. Sophia brought the pump over the next morning. We tested it in the backyard, hooked the tube from the septic to the pump, then to a test valve. Gray water spurted out, reeking, but silent like I wanted. Margaret showed up with an old dish soap bottle. "Add this, makes it smell worse." I laughed. "You're ruthless." She shrugged. "They took $200 from me, this is interest." "Harold saw us, asked, 'Ready yet?' I nodded. "Tonight, you rest, we'll handle it." He patted my shoulder. "Good, don't let them see." I filmed every step, digging the pipe, setting up the pump, testing the water, for evidence if Diane sued back. Sophia double-checked. "Her valve's loose, wastewater'll flow straight into her garden, not back to the well." I nodded. "Perfect. Let's see how Diane likes her new oasis point." Margaret asked, "What if Ray retaliates?" I looked at Harold, recalling his chosen stories. He doesn't know who he's messing with. That night, I was ready. Diane and Ray thought they controlled Willow Creek. They were wrong. I'd show them bullying Harold was the biggest mistake of their lives, but I didn't expect Ray to go nuts enough to pull a gun, or how perfectly Jack would time his arrival. The plan was set, and I, Ethan Carter, couldn't wait to make Diane Voss and Ray Tanner taste the consequences of bullying my grandfather, Harold Carter, and all of Willow Creek. That night, the sky was pitch black, no moon, perfect for action. Sophia Alvarez arrived at my place at 11 p.m., carrying the small hand pump and the plastic tubing we'd bought in Silverton. Margaret Hensley came along, clutching her old dish soap bottle, her eyes gleaming with rare determination for a retired teacher. Harold sat in the kitchen, sipping tea, pretending ignorance as promised, but I caught him glancing at the yard, giving a slight nod. Laura, my mom, had gone upstairs, door shut tight. She wanted no part, and I didn't push her. I checked the Willow Hell folder on my phone one last time. Videos of Ray threatening, photos of Diane's pipe from our well, clips of the wastewater pump test. "If they sue, we've got proof," I said, pocketing the phone. Sophia whispered, "Let's go. Ray patrols at midnight. We've gotta be quick." We headed to the backyard, where the old septic sat under the grass. I dug lightly, popped the lid. The gray water stench hit hard, making Margaret cover her nose. "God, this'll kill her garden." I grinned. "Good, that's the goal." Sophia hooked the tube from the septic to the pump, her hands moving like a pro. "I've fixed plumbing at my old place," she said. "Easy stuff." We dragged the tube across the yard, along the fence to the corner of Sophia's lot, where Diane's pipe surfaced. I knelt, dug lightly with a hand shovel, exposing Diane's shoddily installed backflow valve, a cheap plastic mess. "She doesn't know what she's doing," Sophia muttered, inspecting it. "Wastewater'll go straight to her garden, won't back up to the well." I nodded. "Perfect." Margaret dumped the dish soap into the septic, stirring with a stick. "Extra stink, for fun." The gray water foamed up, smelling worse than a landfill. My community manure tea was ready. I filmed each step, Sophia setting up the pump, me connecting the tube to Diane's valve, Margaret keeping watch with a tiny flashlight. "If Ray shows, signal me," I said. Margaret nodded, eyes darting. Sophia test pumped, wastewater flowed through, silent as we needed, no loud noise to give us away. I grinned. "All right, let's do it for real." Sophia started pumping steadily. I held the tube, and the foul gray water surged out, rushing into Diane's system. I pictured it snaking through the underground pipe, past Sophia's yard, straight to that damn oasis point, her wildflower maze about to become a swamp. After 20 minutes, the septic was half empty, enough to flood Diane's garden. Sophia stopped pumping, wiped sweat. "Done. Now we wait." I detached the tube, hid it under the grass, covered the valve like we'd never touched it. We headed back, hearts pounding, but I couldn't stop grinning. What'll she think when she sees her garden reeking? I asked. Margaret shrugged. Probably blame someone else, not us. Sophia added, Ray'll lose it, watch out. I nodded. If he tries anything, I've got Jack. The next morning, I went out early, pretending to check the well. Harold saw me, asked. Finished? I winked. You'll see. By noon, Diane's screams echoed through the neighborhood. I ran out, phone ready to record. Diane stood in her oasis point, hand over her nose, yelling, Who did this? Wildflowers were wilting, the ground soaked and stinking, the dish soap made eerie foam rise like a haunted swamp. Ray rushed over, face beet red, shouting into his walkie, check the east sector, find the saboteur. He had no one to talk to, just him and Diane in this farce. I filmed close up, Diane stomping, her lilies drowning in wastewater, Ray flailing like he wanted to punch someone. Neighbors gathered, holding noses, whispering. Sophia texted me, it worked, she's pissed. I posted the clip to the neighborhood's internal network, titled Oasis Stink. A few replied, Who did that? Amazing. Margaret called. I heard Diane blame factory pollution, she doesn't suspect us. I laughed hard, they didn't know, and I wanted it that way. But the joy didn't last. That afternoon, Ray banged on our door, eyes bloodshot. You know anything about Diane's garden? I shrugged. Nope. Where's that stink coming from? He gritted his teeth, hand on his hip, flashing the gun. Don't mess with me. Harold stepped out, voice icy. Get off my yard, before I call real authority. Ray backed off, but I saw him eye our well. He was onto something. I texted Jack Ramsey. Plans done. Diane's garden stinks. Ray suspects me, has a gun. Can you come? Jack replied. Stay safe, I'm working on it. I breathed easier, but knew Ray wouldn't stop. He and Diane were humiliated in front of the neighborhood, they'd retaliate. I checked the videos, added Ray's latest threat to Willow Hell. Harold patted my shoulder. Good job, but be careful. He won't give up easy. I nodded. Diane and Ray pushed their power, but I just pushed back, harder. I didn't expect Ray to go crazy enough to pull a gun on Harold, but when he did, Jack and the FBI would make them regret crossing that line. After Ethan Carter, with Sophia Alvarez and Margaret Hensley, turned Diane Voss's Oasis Point into a reeking swamp, I thought I'd scored a win in Willow Creek. Diane screamed, Ray ran around like a headless chicken, and neighbors snickered behind their backs. But I forgot one thing, Ray Tanner wasn't the type to lose without hitting back. He suspected me from the start, and just a day after the sabotage, he started moving. That morning, I checked our well, water still clean, untouched by the wastewater I'd pumped into Diane's system. Harold Carter, my grandfather, stood nearby, watering his lilies, the first time he'd been out there since Ray's harassment began. The stink's drifting over from her place, he said, chuckling lightly. I nodded. That's the plan, let her know not to mess with your well. But the fun didn't last. I heard heavy footsteps on the road. Ray in his crooked security vest, marched straight to our house, face red, eyes blazing with rage. He pounded the door, so hard Laura, my mom, ran out from the kitchen. Who's that? I opened it, keeping calm. What's up, Ray? He jabbed a finger in my face. You know anything about Diane's garden? Don't play dumb. Where'd that stink come from? I shrugged. No clue. Maybe she overdid the liquid fertilizer. He gnashed his teeth, hand on his hip, flashing the gun's grip. Don't mess with me, kid. I saw your well's pressure drop. What'd you do to it? I glanced at Harold. He stepped forward, voice cold. Get off my yard before I call real authority. Ray took a step back, but didn't leave. He eyed the well, then me. Think you're smart. I'll figure it out, and when I've got proof, you're done. He turned, yelling into his walkie, check the Carter well, suspected sabotage. No one answered. He was still performing solo. Laura panicked, yanked me inside. See, he'll kill you. Stop this, Ethan. I shook my head. Mom, he's just bluffing, he's got nothing. But I knew he was on to the truth, and that worried me. That afternoon, Sophia texted, Ray just came by my place, asking about pipes. He dug up the corner of my yard, looking for traces. I ran over, saw dirt churned up near where we'd hooked the tube the night before. Sophia whispered, he didn't find the valve. I covered it back up, but he's furious. I checked, the pipe was well hidden, no exposure. but Ray was closing in. Margaret called right after. He banged on my door, asked what I saw last night. I said nothing. He slammed his fist on it, scared me. I gritted my teeth. Ray wasn't just after me, he was intimidating the whole neighborhood. That night, I saw him outside our house, a few yards from the fence, flashlight sweeping the yard. Harold saw me peering through the window, asked, "What's he want?" I replied, "He thinks I trashed Diane's garden, looking for proof." Harold grabbed the hose. "Let me go out." I held him back. "No, he's got a gun, I'll handle it." I filmed from the window, Ray muttering into his walkie, hand on his gun, light scanning the well. He didn't come in, not yet, but I knew he wouldn't stop. I texted Jack Ramsey, "Ray suspects I wrecked Diane's garden, he's got a gun, direct threats, can you come?" Jack replied, "Keep filming, I'm in Seattle, trying to get back soon, don't face him alone." I sighed. Jack was the lifeline, but I wasn't sure he'd make it in time. Laura heard me read the text, yelled, "Calling Jack's useless, he'll shoot you before the FBI gets here." I looked at her, "Mom, I've got evidence, he won't dare." But I wasn't sure, Ray was crazier than I'd thought. Sophia and Margaret came over the next morning. Sophia said, "He's asking around the neighborhood. No one's talking, but he's zeroing in on you." Margaret added, "He told Diane they'll sue if they find the culprit." I laughed. Sue with what? Fake fines, but I was nervous. Ray didn't need proof to act. He had a gun, and his hothead was 100 times more dangerous than Diane. Harold saw us talking, stepped in, "He's on to you, don't let him catch you." I nodded, "I'll be careful, but I'm not stopping. They messed with you, they pay." Harold patted my shoulder, "Good, but don't prove your mom right." I checked Willow Hell, added yesterday's threat clip. He was getting closer, but I had Jack, Sophia, Margaret and the will to protect Harold. Ray figured out I was a threat, but he didn't know how ready I was. He'd soon pull a gun on Harold, and that'd be his last mistake. Ray Tanner suspected me, Ethan Carter, of sabotaging Diane Voss's Oasis Point, and after his threats and lurking around Willow Creek, I knew he wouldn't quit. But I didn't expect him to go that far, pulling a gun on my grandfather Harold Carter. That's the day everything blew up, and when my uncle Jack Ramsey's FBI team made Ray regret ever crossing the line. It started late one afternoon, a few days after Ray threatened me at our door. I just checked the Willow Hell folder on my phone, videos of Ray ranting, pics of him shining his light on the well, when I heard Harold outside. He was watering his lilies, the first time that day, like he wanted to reclaim the peace Diane and Ray had stolen. I stood in the kitchen, watching through the window, seeing him hold the hose, whispering to the flowers, maybe to Grandma, like he always did. But then I heard heavy footsteps, and Ray appeared, charging past the fence, face red, eyes wild. "Carter," Ray roared, pointing at Harold. "You've been messing with me too long." Harold looked up, eerily calm. "Who are you talking to?" Ray stomped closer, hand on his hip, flashing the gun's grip. "Don't play dumb, your well's tied to Diane's garden. I know you did it." I ran out halfway, heart pounding, yelling, "Ray, get lost before this gets bad." He turned to me, sneered, "You little punk, think you're clever, I'll teach your whole family a lesson." Then it all happened fast. Ray pulled his gun, an old short-barreled piece, but real enough to chill me, pointed it straight at Harold, shouting, "Get on the ground." Harold stood still, hose in hand, water dripping onto the grass, eyes unblinking. He wasn't scared, he'd faced shelling at Chosen, this was nothing. But I panicked. Laura, my mom, burst out the front door, screaming, "Stop, he's got a gun." I ducked behind the mailbox, hands shaking as I hit record, texting Jack 3 words, "Gun." "Harold, now." Ray stepped back, but kept the gun on Harold. "You don't kneel, I shoot, I'm not kidding." Harold stared at him, voice low, "You don't have the guts." I saw Ray's hand tremble, he was unhinged, but scared too. Laura sobbed, "Ethan, do something." I yelled back, "Mom, call the cops," but I knew local police were slow, only Jack could save this. I checked my phone, Jack texted, "ETA 5 minutes. 5 minutes, too long," with Harold, staring down a barrel. Ray swung toward me, "What are you doing behind that mailbox?" "Calling who?" I didn't answer, kept filming, "Drop the gun, Ray, you're done." He laughed loud, but his voice cracked. I'm done. You're done when I shoot this old man. Harold suddenly took a step forward, hose dangling. You wanna shoot, shoot, but don't regret it. Ray freaked, backed up, gun waving wildly. Stay still. I saw him losing it. He didn't mean to shoot, but his hot head could do something dumb any second. Then I heard engines roaring, 2 sleek black SUVs screeched to a halt out front, dust flying everywhere, doors flung open, and Jack Ramsey's FBI team stepped out, rifles cocked, vests on, eyes cold as steel. Jack, tall in his black suit, bellowed, "Drop the weapon, now." Ray spun around, face pale, hands shaking so bad the gun looked ready to slip. "FBI?" he stammered. How are you here?" An agent advanced, rifle trained. "Drop it, or you won't get to regret it." Harold stood there, weirdly calm, the hose slipping from his hand, hitting the ground, water splashing Ray's feet, like a mocking final touch. Ray dropped the gun, it clattered onto the grass. "Hands up, don't shoot, don't shoot." Jack stepped forward, voice icy. "You just pointed that at the wrong guy." Agents cuffed Ray, shoved him into the SUV, while Laura ran out, hugged Harold, sobbing, "I told you, they're crazy." Harold patted her shoulder. "It's over, Laura." I stopped recording, ran to Jack. "You got here just in time. He almost shot Grandpa." Jack nodded. "Your text hit right. I just wrapped a case in Seattle, wasn't far." I handed him my phone. "Here, video of Ray pulling the gun, everything from the start." Jack skimmed it, good enough to lock him up. "Where's Diane?" I pointed to her house. She ran out, saw the scene, screamed, "Ray, what are you doing?" Jack turned. "You've got some talking to do too, get in the car." Diane froze, face ashen, the first time I'd seen her speechless. Harold looked at me, picked up the hose. "You did good, Ethan, but next time, don't make me the star." I laughed. "You're the star, Grandpa." Jack slapped my shoulder. "Keep the evidence, this isn't over with Diane." Ray sat in the FBI SUV, head down, all his bravado gone. Neighbors gathered, clapping sporadically. Willow Creek had just watched the end of Ray's circus. But I knew Diane wouldn't give up easy, and Jack had something up his sleeve, something bigger than I thought. Ray facing Harold was his last mistake, but Diane was the one behind it all. I looked at the garden, lilies still blooming, and told myself, they lost for Harold. Ray Tanner had just been cuffed and stuffed into an SUV by my Uncle Jack Ramsey's FBI team, after pulling a gun on my grandfather, Harold Carter, right out front of our Willow Creek house. I, Ethan Carter, hadn't even caught my breath when Diane Voss bolted from her place a few houses down, screaming like she'd been stabbed. "Ray, what are you people doing?" She stood in the street, blonde hair a mess, pointing at Jack and the FBI, like she had any say. Jack turned, voice cold. "You've got some explaining to do too, Voss. Get in the car." Diane froze, face pale, the first time I'd seen that smug confidence of hers melt away. Neighbors clustered around our yard, whispering behind hands, a few clapping here and there. Laura, my mom, clung to Harold, still sobbing. "I told you, they're nuts." Harold picked up the hose, shrugged. "It's done, Laura, don't make a fuss." I ran to Jack, handed him my phone. "Here, video of Ray pulling the gun, everything from the beginning. Diane's behind it all." Jack skimmed it, nodded, good enough to lock him up. "But Diane's not just the puppet master here." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Jack pointed at Diane's house. "Teams going in to search. She's been on our radar for a while." 2 agents kicked in Diane's door, and she screamed, "You have no right, this is my house." Jack flashed a warrant. "FBI has the right, sit still, or you're cuffed now." Diane stepped back, clutching her chest, but her eyes darted like she was plotting an escape. I filmed from a distance. Agents hauled out boxes from her house, color-printed documents, clipboards, an old printer, and a cash box. Jack skimmed through, muttering, "Fake dues, fake city seals, she's bigger than I thought." I asked, "How big?" Jack replied, 3 other neighborhoods in Oregon reported similar scams. We think she's behind them." Diane slumped on her steps, yelling, "I'm innocent. Ray did it all. I just wanted a nicer neighborhood." An agent pulled a stack of papers from a box, bank statements in Diane's name, labeled Willow Creek HOA fees, totaling thousands of dollars. Jack turned to her, innocent, this is your account, collecting from old folks, forging government docs, these don't grow on trees. Diane stammered, it's a misunderstanding, I didn't force anyone. I laughed loud, misunderstanding. You forced Margaret Hensley to pay $200, what do you call that? Jack signaled an agent to cuff Diane. She thrashed, no, I didn't do anything wrong. Ray's the one with the gun, Jack said coldly, he's talking, you told him to threaten for cash, shut it now. Diane was shoved into the car, still screaming, you'll regret this. But no one listened, neighbors started clapping louder, some shouting, serves her right. Sofia Alvarez ran up, whispered to me, she deserves it, my house is safe now. Margaret appeared, eyes bright, can I get my money back? I winked, with Jack, you bet. Jack pulled me aside, you did good, your videos were key. Ray's going down for a stolen weapon, that gun was reported missing in Idaho, 3 years ago. Diane's facing fraud, forgery, and extortion. I asked, how'd you know her before? Jack sighed, I've been tracking a fake HOA scam ring in Oregon. Diane fits the profile, blonde ex-real estate, preys on the elderly. You accidentally helped me crack a big case. I grinned, so I'm an honorary agent? Jack slapped my shoulder, keep dreaming. The FBI kept searching, found Diane's laptop, loaded with fake HOA rules files, neighbor fee lists, and emails with some Craig, about expanding the plan. Jack frowned, she wasn't solo, someone else is in this. I worried who? Jack shook his head, not sure yet, but we'll find out. Diane sat in the car, head down, her self-crowned queen act gone. Ray in another vehicle, glared at me through the glass, eyes full of hate, but powerless, he was done for real. Harold stepped out, watching the scene, they went big just to end up like this. I nodded, they picked the wrong guy to bully, Grandpa. He chuckled, you're the one they shouldn't have messed with. Laura ran up, hugged me, you were right, I was wrong, but don't scare me again. I smiled, relax, Mom, Jack's got the rest. Agents packed up, hauling Diane's boxes and printer, evidence filling the car. I posted the clip to the neighborhood network, Ray pulls gun, Diane busted, and it spread fast. Sophia texted, everyone's celebrating, you're a hero. Margaret called, I saw my money in that box, thanks. I turned to Jack, can you keep her locked up long? Jack nodded, with this haul, she's not out soon, but this Craig guy worries me. I frowned, what's that mean? Jack pointed at the laptop, someone else wants to keep this game going. Diane crumbled, not just because Ray was caught, but because her fake empire fell apart. Neighbors cheered as the FBI drove her off, but I knew it wasn't over. Harold watered his lilies, the garden peaceful again, but Jack was right, someone out there was still waiting. I checked Willow Hell, enough to bury Diane, but if Craig showed up, I'd be ready. Ray and Diane lost, but Willow Creek wasn't fully safe, not yet. Diane Voss and Ray Tanner were hauled off by my uncle Jack Ramsey's FBI team, leaving Willow Creek in a mix of relief and excitement. I, Ethan Carter, stood in our yard, watching Harold Carter, my grandfather, water his lilies like Ray never pointed a gun at him, or Diane stole from our well. Laura, my mom, finally stopped crying, though she muttered, I still can't believe you dragged the FBI into this. Neighbors gathered around, clapping as the black SUVs vanished, and I knew we'd won, at least against Diane and Ray. The next morning, I called Sofia Alvarez and Margaret Hensley over. They're gone, now what? I asked, holding my phone full of Willow Hell videos. Sofia grinned, celebrate, my house is safe. Margaret nodded, I want my money back, $200 big on a pension. Harold walked in, set down a teapot, do what you want, just keep this garden quiet. I nodded, you mean keep Willow Creek quiet, I've got a plan. Laura glared, don't tell me you're wrecking something else. I laughed, no Mom, this time it's rebuilding. We held our first gathering in my yard, no fines, no fees, just neighbors and some cookie trays. Sophia brought, Margaret said, FBI called, they found my $200 in Diane's cash box, I'm getting it back. Sophia added, I'm painting my house bright yellow to spite Diane. I laughed hard, good, she hates loud colors. Other neighbors joined, old Jim from down the street, sweet Mrs. Patel, sharing how Diane and Ray threatened them too. She said my house was too yellow, demanded I repaint. Mrs. Patel said, now I'm keeping it. Harold went to the garden, grabbed a shovel. I'm doing this, who's helping? He dug a new bed, carved a small wooden sign, Freedom Blooms. Sophia and I brought lilies from the store, planted them around it, added solar lights to glow at night. Our symbol, I said, filming the crowd clapping. Harold looked at me, you're overdoing it, but it's nice. It became a hangout spot. Neighbors passed by, nodded. Some kids left painted rocks, saying freedom. One day, someone added a plastic flamingo. I kept it, smirking at how Diane hated pink. I posted the final video online. Ray pulls gun, Diane busted, with shots of the new garden. It blew up, hitting 1 million views in a week. Local news called, can you tell the story? I passed, but Harold gave one line, I just wanted to water my lilies. That went viral. People loved the quiet old man. Jack texted, your video's solid, the city wants it for a fake HOA case study. Cool with that? I asked Harold. He shrugged. If it helps others, go for it. I texted back, yes, but credit Harold. Willow Creek changed. Mrs. Patel held a bake sale, raised cash to fix the road. No one forced, everyone chipped in. Sophia taught her son to bike in the yard, no more Ray to fear. Margaret brought tea to her porch, invited folks. Now I'm not scared of knocks. I saw Harold in the garden daily, watering, smiling more than before. One night, he called me out, you did good, your grandma'd be proud. I nodded, I did it for you, and her. He patted my shoulder, keep it quiet, don't let others ruin it. Laura finally settled in. She baked with Sophia, grumbling, I still hate drama, but you were right, they had to go. I grinned, see Mom, sometimes you fight back. She glared, don't age me more. But I saw her relax. Willow Creek wasn't Diane and Ray's battlefield anymore. I checked Willow Hell one last time, packed with evidence against Diane, fake fines, Ray's threat videos, the Oasis Point sabotage. I posted another clip of the new garden, titled Willow Creek Reborn. No sarcasm, just truth. Neighbors texted, thanks, peace is real now. A stranger from another state wrote, my place has a fake HOA too, you gave me ideas. I texted Jack, this is bigger than we thought, what's your take? Jack called, you're right, and this Craig from Diane's laptop worries me. Keep your eyes open, Ethan. Willow Creek came back, not just Harold's garden, but the community. Lilies bloomed, laughter replaced Diane's yells, but Jack's words stuck. Diane fell, Ray's locked up, but someone out there might keep going. I watched Harold water, thinking, they won't touch him again. Diane and Ray's nightmare ended, but I had a hunch another was lurking. Willow Creek had just reclaimed its peace, after Diane Voss and Ray Tanner were taken away by my Uncle Jack Ramsey's FBI team. I, Ethan Carter, thought I could breathe easy, watching Harold Carter, my grandfather, water his lilies and neighbors chat around the Freedom Blooms sign. But that victory feeling didn't last. One morning, I opened our mailbox, and found an envelope, no stamp, no address, just neat handwriting, Ethan Carter. I tore it open, and the letter inside chilled me. You humiliated the wrong people, this isn't over. The council. The council? Diane called herself the Standards Committee, but there was no real council here. Willow Creek never had an official HOA. I showed Harold the letter. He read it, shook his head. More dumb games? Laura, my mom, saw me with the paper, freaked. Ethan, what's that? Don't tell me more trouble. I shrugged. Not sure yet, but someone's pissed about Diane and Ray getting nabbed. I texted Jack right away. Got a threat letter. The council, tied to Diane? Jack called back, voice grim. Just what I suspected. Craig Delaney, name from Diane's laptop. He worked with her. Keep the letter, snap pics, don't touch it much, might have prints. Craig Delaney, I remembered the name from Jack's talk in part 11. I looked him up quick, lived at the end of Willow Creek, private security guy, quiet, but used to hang around Diane's place. I'd never met him face to face, but Sofia Alvarez texted me later. Saw a weird guy near your house yesterday. Thinning hair, polo shirt, clipboard. Asked me about Diane? I didn't answer. I asked, what'd he do? Sophia said, walked around, took pics of your yard, then split. I checked the cheap security cam I'd set up after Ray. Sure enough, 2 a.m. The night before, a guy matching Sophia's description stood outside, flashlight on our well. I called Sophia and Margaret Hensley over. Craig Delaney, who is he? I asked, showing the letter. Margaret frowned, saw him with Diane a few times, he was quiet, but she'd say Craig handles the paperwork. Once he demanded I pay a maintenance fees too. Sophia nodded. He asked me about plumbing. I told him to get lost. If he knows we trashed Diane's garden, we're in trouble. Harold listened, holding the hose. What's he want? To keep Diane's game going. I nodded. Maybe, but Jack says he's part of something bigger. Jack came by that afternoon, bringing Diane's FBI-seized laptop. Here he pointed to emails between Diane and C. Delaney, plans to expand the HOA to 3 other neighborhoods, projected fee lists, and a line. Carter's a problem, deal with him soon. Jack looked at me. You wrecked their scheme. Craig's not happy. He might be a lackey, or the real brains. I asked, is he dangerous? Jack shrugged. Not clear yet, but if he's like Ray, watch out. I'll keep digging, you stay alert. I checked the letter, fancy paper, handwritten, faint cheap cologne smell. No prints. I tried with Harold's old police auxiliary kit, but Craig was clearly sharper than Ray. I filmed the guy outside from the cam, added it to Willow Hell, texted Jack, he's scoping my house, can you grab him? Jack replied, not enough evidence yet, I'm tracking him. Don't act on your own. Laura heard me read it, yelled, see, more trouble. Stop it, Ethan. Harold cut in, they won't leave us alone, Ethan's doing right. Sophia suggested, add more cameras, if he comes, we catch him red-handed. Margaret added, I'll ask around, see who knows Craig. I nodded, good, but no direct confrontation. Jack's handling the legal stuff. Harold looked at me, got a plan? I grinned, not yet, but if he wants to play, I'm game. He shrugged, don't prove your mom right, she's really worried. Craig Delaney was threatening, not just me, but Willow Creek. Diane fell, Ray's locked up, but this letter showed someone wanted their farce to live on. I looked at Harold's garden, lilies blooming, and thought, he won't touch him ever. Jack was right, it wasn't over, and Craig was the new shadow. I checked the cameras, ready to record. If he came, I wouldn't let him win easy. The threat letter from Craig Delaney sat on our kitchen table in Willow Creek, a reminder that even with Diane Voss and Ray Tanner gone, the darkness hadn't fully lifted. Ethan Carter, sat there, watching Harold Carter, my grandfather through the window, watering his lilies in the little garden he and Grandma built. He held the hose, its soft hiss sounding as water swept over the flowers like nothing had happened. No Diane, no Ray, no gun, but I knew, from the letter and Jack Ramsey's words, that Craig was lurking, and I had to rethink everything that had gone down to prep for what's next. I came here to my mom Laura's old house, just to help Harold after college, to dodge that lost feeling in a chaotic job market. I didn't expect to become a protector, not just for Harold, but for Willow Creek. Diane showed up with her clipboard and power delusions, Ray with his gun and hot head. They turned this quiet neighborhood into a war zone. I remember the day Ray aimed at Harold, my mom screaming, and Jack's FBI team rolling in like an action flick. I flushed wastewater into Diane's garden, not just for the well, but for Harold, because he deserved peace after all he'd lived through. Harold told me about Chosen, about shelling and nights he thought he wouldn't make it. Bullies only win if you stay quiet, he said once, when I shared my plan to trash Diane's garden. He didn't seek revenge, he just wouldn't let bullies win. I learned from him, not anger, but resolve. Diane and Ray thought they could rule Willow Creek with fake papers and threats, but they didn't get this community, didn't get Harold, didn't get me. I filmed, planned, pulled Jack in, not because I wanted drama, but because I couldn't let them steal his peace. Looking back, I wonder, did I go too far? Flushing wastewater into Diane's garden was petty, but it worked. She lost face, Ray lost control, and Willow Creek got its freedom back. Laura feared I'd dragged us into danger, and she wasn't wrong. Ray nearly shot Harold. But if I hadn't acted, Diane would have kept collecting, Ray would have kept threatening, and Harold wouldn't go to his garden anymore. I changed through this, from a clueless kid to someone ready to fight back, not because I liked it, but because I had to. Jack called that night, after seeing the letter pics from Craig. He's trickier than Diane. Watch yourself, Ethan, he said. I'm tracking him, but not enough to nab him yet. Keep filming. If he moves, I've got cause. I nodded, though he couldn't see. I'm ready. He won't touch Harold. Jack chuckled. You're like your grandpa, stubborn. I looked at Harold in the garden, thinking, if being like him means guarding this, then yeah. Sophia Alvarez and Margaret Hensley texted me after. Sophia set up new cameras. Margaret asked around about Craig. He's low-key, Margaret said, but some saw him with Diane before. He wants to keep the HOA game going. Sophia added, if he shows, we'll catch him. I smiled. From Solo, I had a crew: Sophia, Margaret, Jack and Harold. Laura walked in, saw me with my phone. What are you up to now? I said, just prepping. Craig wants a fight. I won't let him win. She sighed. I just want peace, but be careful. I nodded. Don't worry, Mom. I learned from Harold. I filmed a final YouTube video, Willow Creek Reborn, with Harold watering, the Freedom Bloom sign, and a call: don't let fake HOAs win, fight back. I didn't spill all about Craig, not enough proof, but left it open. It's not over, but we're not scared. Harold saw me post, asked, what do you say? I read it to him. He laughed. Can't you shorten it? I just want to water my lilies is enough. I cracked up. You're viral now. Don't blame me. I stood in the yard with Harold that night, the hose hissing softly, lilies glinting under the lights. They won't touch you again, I said. He shrugged. Let them try. You'll handle it. I nodded, determined not just for Harold, but for Willow Creek, for folks like Margaret, Sophia, Mrs. Patel. Craig Delaney might come, but I had Willow Hell, Jack the community, and Harold, who taught me peace is worth fighting for. The video ended with Harold watering, water sweeping over lilies, and my voice: this is how you keep things blooming, and we'll keep it, no matter who comes. Craig was the new shadow, but I was ready. He wouldn't win. The story reflects real issues in American life today, especially overreach, scams in small communities, and the power of unity against injustice. Willow Creek's setting, a retirement neighborhood in Oregon, evokes the quiet suburban towns many Americans seek for a peaceful life after hard-working years, like Harold Carter, a Korean War vet. Yet Diane Voss and Ray Tanner's fake HOA fee scheme mirrors a real problem: scams exploiting trust, especially from the elderly, like Margaret Hensley forced to pay $200. It's a sore spot in the U.S., where lawsuits over fake or abusive HOAs often hit the news. Ethan Carter, the protagonist, represents today's young Americans, facing economic uncertainty, like Ethan, job hunting post-pandemic, but ready to stand up for family and community. Flushing wastewater into Diane's garden, though petty, shows a creative defiance, a U.S. trait, not taking oppression lying down. Jack Ramsey, and the FBI's intervention, highlight law's role in restoring justice, but also remind us the system only works when someone like Ethan documents proof, a reality in this tech age, where videos and social media are potent whistleblowers. The takeaway in today's America: don't stay silent against unfairness, act, even small, like Ethan with his community manure tea, and lean on your community, like Sophia and Margaret. But stay sharp. Craig Delaney warns that beating one bad guy doesn't end the threat. Unite, use tech smartly, and trust in freedom's value, like Harold with his garden. That's how you keep your community blooming, amid modern challenges. If you enjoyed watching Willow Creek take down Diane Ray, and gear up for Craig, hit subscribe, so you don't miss the next video. Thanks for joining Harold and me. See you when the garden keeps blooming, and the bad guys pay.